Have a pencil and paper ready because I'd like you to try doing some of these numbers yourself. Okay, let's start with something relatively easy. Pause the video tutorial and see if you can write 275 in kanji. Now normally we write kanji downwards, but I'm happy if you write it across or down. Okay, let's see what we've got. We've got 2 hundreds, so we need to take a 2 and we need to take 100. That's our 200 done. Then we've got 70, that's 7, and 70, that's 7 tens, isn't it? So we need 7 tens and then 5 on the end, and we don't need anything after that. And that gives us 275. And of course, actually, because we're using kanji, it really should be written down like that if we're being very picky. So there's our first one, 275, 275. Let's try another. Okay, we have 4,820. Okay, this shouldn't be too tricky. Let's go down right from the beginning. So we need 4,000, so we need the number 4, and then the unit for thousands, and that's sen, and there it is. 8 hundreds, so we need to take the 8, and then we need the 100, and there's 100, so 8 hundreds, 2 tens, so that's 22 tens, and on the end there's absolutely nothing. So in Japanese you don't need to write a 0, you just leave it blank, which gives us 4,820, 4,820. Let's try something a little larger still that's going to take us into Hmong territory. Now this is a long one, so let's put it right up the top of the page to give us lots of room. Okay, 94,236. We now have a number that has more than 4 digits in it. So the first thing we do before going on is isolate the 4 digits at the end, and that leaves us with how many Hmong we're dealing with. Okay, so we're going to just draw a nice weird shape around that. Now that's isolated the 4 digits at the end of our number from the number of Hmong. So we've got 9, that's the number of Hmong. Let's go and grab it. Okay, here we have 9. Now before we go on to do that remaining number, we've got to put in the Hmong so that we know that what we're talking about here is 9 lots of 10,000s. And that's, of course, a Hmong is a 10,000. So Q Hmong. That takes care of the 9. And then we've put the Hmong in before we go on. After that, it's fairly straightforward. So we get the 4,000s. So 4. And then we actually have to put in the 1,000. And here's 1,000 over here. So 9 Hmongs, 4,000s. Next, we've got 200s. So we need a 2. Then we need, again, the units, they're hundreds. Then we need, finally, 30. So that's 3 tens, isn't it? 3, and the unit is tens. And on the end, number 6, so we pop that on. And that gives us 94,236, which in Japanese is 94,236. Let's try another one of those big numbers. Okay, here's another big number. There are more than 4 digits, so it's going to have a Hmong in it. And before we do anything else, let's isolate those 4 digits at the end so that we can see how many Hmong we're dealing with. And here we go. So those 4 digits at the end, we're just going to draw a nice box around it. And that leaves us with 2 Hmong. So let's go and grab our 2. Let's do it across this time, just for variety, even though you're not really supposed to. So there's our 2. Now what we're dealing with here are Hmongs. So we'll go and grab a Hmong, because 20,000 is in fact 2 lots of 10,000, isn't it? Now we can do the rest. So we've got 5,000s. So we just need a 5. Then we've got to put the unit in, that's sen. There go our 5,000s. 900s, so we need a 9 over here, and then of course we need to put the unit, which is 100. There it is, hyaku. 7 tens, 70, so 7, the unit is tens, and finally on the end there's a 5. And there it is. And let's bring it down. So 25,975 should be 25,975. Did you have that? Let's try an even harder one. Okay, we now have a number which is not only more than 4 digits, but it's actually 2 more, so 6 digits. Now, the very first thing we do with any number that's longer than 4 digits is we're going to isolate the 4 digits on the end so that we can identify how many Hmong we're dealing with. Okay, there's my little isolation box, and we now see that we're dealing with 43 Hmong. Now 43, we need to say 4 tens, don't we? So 4 tens, that makes 40. Then comes the 3, 43. So that's how many Hmongs we've got. So we've got to actually put the Hmong unit in before we go ahead and complete the last part of the number. And that is 5 thousands. So there we've got 5 and the unit is thousands. Next we've got 9 hundreds. So in a 9 and the unit is 100, which needs to go in. We've got 6 tens or 60. So go grab a 6. The unit is 10, that's 60, and 0 and at the end. So that just leaves nothing. And there we have it, 435,960 in Japanese. 43万 5,960. Now we're going to try a Japanese number and see if we can translate that back into English. Okay, here's our Japanese number. 7,468. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to translate that nana, that's 7. So we're going to put 7. Okay, next we see the unit, so it's 7,000. Now the best way to do this is actually put the 3 zeros in, and then we can change that as we go along. But we know that we've, for starters, got 7,000. Okay, next we've got 400. So we can add that 400 in. Then we've got 6 lots of tens, so 60. We can pop that in. And finally we've got 8 on the end. So here we have our finished number. Let's pop a comma in, 7,468. Let's try another. Okay, here's our Japanese number. 23,864. Okay, let's start by translating the 2. So pop our 2 in here. And it's 2, this is our unit, is 10,000. Now to represent 10,000s, let's just first of all put in 4 zeros. Okay, now that tells us that if there were no other following numbers, that would be the number that we're dealing with. 2만, 20,000. So it's 2 and the mang is always represented by 4 zeros. Now we can go back and add in the extra numbers. So we have, in addition to our 20,000, san, zen, 3,000. And that's the 1,000 spot there. So we would change that to 3. So we've got 2 10,000s, there 2, 3,000s, 3. Now we've got 800 800, and that goes there. 60, and that's where our tens go. And finally 4 on the end, and we can pop a comma in, and that gives us 23,864. Let's go a little bigger still. Okay, let's start at the beginning. So we've got 2. We'll translate that again. Okay, 2, and it's 2 tens. So far we're dealing with 20. Okay, now we see we've got an extra 7. So it's not just 20, it's actually 27. So I change that to 27. And now it's actually 27 of these units. It's 27 Hmong. Now as soon as we see a Hmong, we immediately pop in our 4 zeros, or alternatively, you could just put 4 dots, and then you know that you've got to change each one of those either to a number or to a 0. So we've got 4 numbers, 4 digits following. That's that Hmong. Now we've got 9,000, and that goes there, doesn't it? So we've got to change that one to 9. Then we've got 800, 800. So that's the 100 spot. We change that to 8. The tens, 5 tens. So that goes there. That gives us 50. and 4 left over at the end. And when we pop our comma in, that gives us 279,854.